chicken wing Lan Jingyi was eating fell out of his mouth and landed in the bowl in front of him, splashing sauce in all directions, including onto the front of his robe. Wei Wuxian's mind was focused on a single thought. Once Lan Wangji sobered up, he wouldn't be able to look anyone in the eye again. What is he doing? Jinling asked, bewildered. He's demonstrating a special use of the Lan forehead ribbon for you guys, Wei Wuxian said. What special use? Lan Sidrui asked. If you run into a very strange walking corpse and think that you need to capture it and bring it back for closer inspection, you can take off your forehead ribbon and tie it up like this. How could we do that? Lan Jingyi blurted out. Our clan's forehead ribbon is... Lan Sidrui stuffed the chicken wing back into Lan Jingyi's mouth. Oh, I see. I had no idea the ribbon could be used in such a clever way. Ignoring the others' weird looks, Lan Wangji dragged Wei Wuxian upstairs. When they entered the room, he turned, closed the door, and bolted it shut. Finally, he pushed the table in front of the door, as though to barricade the room against some outside enemy. Meanwhile, Wei Wuxian looked on helplessly. Are you planning on killing me and chopping up my body? Inside the private room was a painted wooden screen, which divided the space in two. The table and seating mats were placed in one half, providing a location to eat and chat, whereas a curtained bed was situated on the other side, providing a place to sleep. Lan Wangji dragged Wei Wuxian behind the screen and forcefully shoved him onto the bed. As he fell, Wei Wuxian lightly struck his head against the bed's wooden headboard. He shouted a reflexive, ouch, but internally he thought, is he trying to force me to go to sleep with him again? But it's not 9 o'clock yet, is it? Hearing his cry, Lan Wangji lifted the hem of his robes, sat gracefully by the bed, and began to probe Wei Wuxian's head with his hand. Though he wore no particular expression, his touch was extremely gentle, as though asking Wei Wuxian if he was in pain. As Lan Wangji caressed him, the corner of Wei Wuxian's mouth twitched. It hurts, it hurts, it hurts so much. As he listened to Wei Wuxian's repeated, pained cries, worry tinged Lan Wangji's face, and his touch became even gentler. On top of that, he patted Wei Wuxian's shoulder a few times to comfort him. Wei Wuxian lifted his hands and showed them to him. How about you release me? Han Guangjun, you tied me up so tightly, I'm going to start bleeding. It's so painful. Undo the ribbon and let me go, okay? Is that okay? All of a sudden, Lan Wangji put his hand over Wei Wuxian's mouth. Wei Wuxian tried to speak. If you don't want to do something, you pretend you can't understand me. And if you can't pretend, then you won't let me speak? How nasty, he thought. If this is how it's going to be, you better not blame me. Lan Wangji's hand was pressed tightly against his mouth, so Wei Wuxian parted his lips. His tongue darted out and gave his friend's palm a soft lick. Though the touch was as light as a dragonfly brushing against the water, Lan Wangji reacted as though Wei Wuxian's tongue was made of fire and immediately retracted his hand. Wei Wuxian took a deep breath, but just as he felt the relief of petty vengeance, he saw Lan Wangji turn his back. The latter sat on the bed with his arms wrapped around his knees, holding the palm Wei Wuxian had licked close to his chest, entirely unmoving. What are you doing? What is this you're doing? Wei Wuxian asked. Lan Wangji had the dejected, lifeless demeanor of someone who had been tarnished by some lecher. If someone didn't know better, they would think that Wei Wuxian had done something terrible to him. So you really hated that, huh? Wei Wuxian said, seeing Lan Wangji's devastated appearance. Well, even if you hated it, it can't be helped. Who told you to be so domineering, to keep me from talking? All right, why don't you come over here and I'll wipe your hand off for you. When he finished, he extended his still bound together arms, intending to touch Lan Wangji's shoulder. However, his friend moved out of the way. As he watched how Lan Wangji's arms were wrapped around his knees, and how his friend had curled up silently in the corner of the bed, Wei Wuxian felt a powerful urge to make mischief again. Kneeling, he inched toward Lan Wangji. He smiled and spoke in his most demonic voice. Are you scared now? Lan Wangji leapt off the bed at once, indeed appearing frightened. He kept his back turned and maintained a safe distance between them. The tide of mischief inside Wei Wuxian swelled. Leisurely, he got off the bed. Hey, why are you avoiding me? He cackled. Don't run, my hands are still tied. If I'm not scared, what do you have to be scared of? Come, come, come. Come over here. As he laughed, he pressed closer, full of wicked intentions. Lan Wangji ran past the screen, only to encounter the table that he himself had used to block the exit. Wei Wuxian rounded the divider too, chasing after him, only for him to escape around the other side. The two circled the screen 7 or 8 times, pursuing and being pursued. Just as Wei Wuxian was starting to enjoy the excitement, he suddenly sobered. What am I doing? He thought. Playing hide and seek? What in the world? Did I slam a door on my head? At least Lan Chan has drunkenness as an excuse. Why did I let him drag me into this game? Noticing that his pursuer had stopped, Lan Wangji also stopped. Hiding behind the screen, he cautiously poked out the top half of his snow-white face and silently spied on Wei Wuxian's side. Wei Wuxian carefully observed him. Once again, Lan Wangji's appearance was solemn and proper, as if the 6-year-old kid who he had chased round and round the screen divider was someone else. Do you want to keep going? Wei Wuxian asked. Expressionlessly, Lan Wangji nodded. Wei Wuxian almost hurt himself trying to suppress his laughter. When Lan Chan got drunk, he wanted to play hide and seek with him. Wei Wuxian's internal guffaws crashed against his ribs like enormous waves. His entire body shook with the effort of holding them back. Clans, like the Gusulan clan, forbid making a racket, being rambunctious, and even walking too fast. Lan Chan must never have had the chance to be wild when he was small. Tisk, tisk, tisk. How sad. Either way, he's not going to remember anything when he sobers up, so there's no harm in us fooling around. Once more, he ran a couple of steps toward Lan Wangji, pretending that he intended to chase him. Sure enough, Lan Wangji started running too. Wei Wuxian acted as though he was teasing a child and went along with it as best he could. He chased Lan Wangji 2 or 3 times around the screen, saying, Run, 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 run faster. Don't let me catch you. Every time I catch you, I'll lick you. Let's see if you're scared. His words were intended to frighten, but to his surprise, Lan Wangji suddenly walked around from the other side of the screen divider and collided with him head-on. Wei Wuxian was going to try to catch him, but he hadn't expected Lan Wangji to deliver himself to his doorstep. Momentarily speechless, he forgot to reach out his hand. When Lan Wangji saw that he wasn't moving, he lifted Wei Wuxian's bound wrists and placed his friend's arms around his neck, apparently entering this unbreakable trap of his own volition. You caught me, Lan Wangji said. Sure, I caught you, Wei Wuxian replied. Lan Hongji seemed to be waiting for something, and when a long time passed and it still hadn't come, he repeated those 3 words. This time, he over-enunciated his words, appearing a bit anxious as he urged Wangxian on. You caught me. Yes, I caught you, Wangxian said. After he caught Lan Hongji, then what? What did he say again? Every time he caught him, what would happen? It couldn't be right. This time doesn't count. You walked over here yourself. Before he finished, he saw Lan Hongji's crestfallen expression and his frosty, unhappy demeanor. It can't be right. When Lan Chan drinks, not only does he like playing hide and seek, he also likes being licked. He tried to lift his arms from Lan Hongji's neck, only for Lan Hongji to reach for them and force them back down. He held Wangxian's limbs down tightly, refusing to let him take them away. Seeing Lan Hongji's hand pressed down against his arm, Wangxian thought for a moment, then scooted closer and moved his face until he was nearly touching his friend. He grazed his lips over Lan Hongji's arm, seemingly kissing it, but not quite. His tongue lightly brushed against his friend's pale, jade skin. Very, very lightly. Lan Hongji jerked his hand back with lightning speed and removed Wangxian's arms from his neck. Once again, he turned away, leapt aside, and caressed the hand Wangxian had licked. Silently, he lowered his gaze and faced the wall. Is he afraid of me licking him, or does he like it? Which is it? Wangxian wondered. Or maybe he both likes it and is afraid of it at the same time? Just as he was contemplating this, Lan Hongji turned around, his expression serene once more. Again. Again? Again what? Wangxian asked. Like before, Lan Hongji hid behind the screen divider, poked out the top of his head, and watched him. The meaning couldn't have been clearer. Again. Chase me. Again. Temporarily lost for words, Wangxian nonetheless complied. This time, he only managed to take a couple of steps forward before Lan Hongji intentionally ran into him again. You're really doing this on purpose, Wangxian said. Once more, Lan Hongji pulled Wangxian's arms around his neck. Pretending he didn't understand what Wangxian had just said, he waited for his friend to fulfill his promise another time. Am I just going to have Lan Chan have all the fun by himself? Wangxian thought. No, that's unacceptable. Anyway, no matter what I do to him, he's not going to remember anything when he wakes up tomorrow. I'm going to have even more fun with him. The two sat on the bed, Wangxian's arms still around Lan Hongji's neck. You like this, right? You're not allowed to turn around. Speak. Do you like it or not? If you like this, then we don't have to run around first every single time. I'll make you as happy as you want. As he spoke, he tugged Lan Hongji's hand upward, lowered his head, and kissed his friend once between his pale, slim fingers. Lan Hongji tried to pull his arm away again, but Wangxian held it firmly in place, refusing to let go. His lips touched Lan Hongji's fingertips. With feather-light breaths, Wangxian roamed up each distinct knuckle until he reached the back of his palms. Here, he kissed him again. No matter how hard Lan Hongji tugged, he was unable to tear his hand away. Abruptly, he curled his fingers into a fist. Wangxian pushed up his friend's sleeves a little, revealing a snow-white wrist. He kissed that too. Afterward, he gazed upward without lifting his head. Is this enough yet? Lan Hongji pressed his mouth tightly shut, refusing to speak. At last, Wangxian lazily sat back up. Tell me, did you burn any paper money for me? There was no reply. Wangxian chuckled, pressed toward Lan Hongji, and kissed his chest through his robes. I won't give you any more if you don't answer. Tell me, how did you recognize me? Lan Wangji closed his eyes. His lips trembled, as though he were about to open his mouth and confess. But unfortunately, just then, as Wei Wuxian gazed upon Lan Wangji's soft, pale pink lips, something seemed to possess him, and he laid a kiss upon them. When he was finished, he licked them, apparently not quite satisfied. Abruptly, both men's eyes widened. After a long, long time, Lan Wangji suddenly lifted his hand. Startled back into sobriety, Wei Wuxian immediately broke into a cold sweat. He quickly tumbled off the bed, thinking that Lan Wangji was about to hit him so hard his heart and lungs would fly out of him then and there. When he looked back, however, he instead saw that Lan Wangji had slapped his own forehead with such force that he had fainted and collapsed on the bed. Thus, inside the private room, Lan Wangji lay on the bed while Wei Wuxian sat on the floor. A cold wind blew in from the open window, sending chills down his back and clearing his mind significantly. He stood up, pushed the table back to its original location, and sat down. Dazed, Wei Wuxian stared blankly at nothing in particular for quite a while. Then he bent down, and after quite some time and effort spent biting at the forehead ribbon around his wrist, he finally undid the string of 7 or 8 knots. His hands now freed, he reflexively poured himself a drink to calm his nerves. He put the cup to his mouth and tried to drink, but not a single drop touched his tongue, even after quite some time had passed. Glancing down, he realized that he hadn't poured anything into the cup to begin with. He had already finished off the pot a while back. When he tried to pour himself a cup a moment ago, he had failed to notice that nothing had come out. Wei Wuxian placed the empty cup back on the table. What am I doing? I've had enough to drink today. Then he turned back. His gaze was just able to brush past the divider. He stared at Lan Wangji's profile as the man lay silently on the bed. I really did drink too much today. Lan Chan is such a noble and proper person. Even if he was drunk, even if he probably won't remember anything when he wakes up, I shouldn't have teased him in such an outrageous way. It was far too disrespectful. But as Wei Wuxian thought about the outrageous way he had teased Lan Wangji, he couldn't help but bring his hand up to his face and touch his own lips. He took the forehead ribbon and tried to flatten it back out, eventually succeeding after quite a long time. Then he walked to the bed and placed it by the pillow, while straining to resist the temptation to glance at Lan Wangji's face. He squatted down and helped his friend remove his boots, then placed his body in the correct Lan clan sleeping position. Afterward, Wei Wuxian sat on the floor, leaning against the bed. His thoughts ran wild for quite some time. Amid the chaos, only one thing was perfectly clear. After today, he should never let Lan Wangji drink again. If his friend was like this with everyone, it would be bad, bad news.